So yes, we're going to kick it off because I think we have kept you waiting long enough. So welcome. This is the Power Up Your Game Studio. We're going to be talking about the essential role of ops and HR to studio success. Before we kind of get started, I want to do a little bit of an introduction on who we are, where we've been, what we do. So I'm Rebecca Sampson. I have been working in the games industry for the past 16 years. I started my career as a receptionist, so entry level. It wasn't my I was rubbish. So I decided to follow my strengths, which was organizing and planning and helping people. And that's where I fell in love with the world of operations and ops. So I've worked with 3 major game studios throughout that time, from receptionist, and grew my way in those roles and grew with the companies that I worked with. I was at Blackrock Studio for 4 years before I moved on to Creative Assembly, which is where I met the lovely Emma Smith. So I was there for 7 years, working within their operations, working with the team, helping them grow. They had around 160 people when I joined. When I left, there was around 500. So that was multiple office fit outs and floor fit outs, multiple building fit outs, building a team and working very closely with all of the departments that kind of go up to making a game studio. It was after 7 years that I moved on to Hangar 13 to help them with their Brighton studio. So there was 13 people there. Grew, I think, to over 100 during my time. So I came in and helped put the processes in place, helped them build the team, helped them build the culture. And it was, I think, the sort of last couple of years of being there that I really loved doing a lot more outreach within the industry. I loved being more involved with not-for-profit partners. So I worked alongside Yuki for a bit, supporting them. I worked with Women in Games as an advisory board member and as an ambassador, Into Games, special effects. And I think it was this element that I really enjoyed doing a much wider outreach within the industry, which is where Moxie Ops formed. So at Moxie Ops, I offer operations, consultancy and contracted services to multiple studios who are in need and maybe at that sort of transitional stage in their life cycle. And for me, it's just being able to work with a lot of people and doing the things that I love and I enjoy. So I'm going to pass over to Emma, who has been an amazing mentor to me and a role model and a fabulous leader.
Thank you so much. And so similarly to Becky, my company, Hestia Talent Partners, is about partnering with companies and sharing my knowledge, skills and experience that I've amassed over years. And pretty much seen it all. There is pretty much nothing that you can say to me that will shock me now. I have been a 999 operator. I've worked for the National Health Service. I worked in charity and citizens advice. And then I joined Creative Assembly in 2009. There were around about 80, 90 people there at that time. And my role was to do everything apart from making the game. So we worked with a very small IT department at the time, and an operations manager. And we really worked hard to make sure that we got all of the things out of the way so that the developers could just get on with it and just make the game and do the thing that you really, really love. And that's why you came there. I stayed there for 15 years and I've seen it evolve and change from, the company name stayed the same, but it evolved and changed so many different times and moved into different buildings. And I could see how that all became something different. And as my career pivoted and changed all the way through that, I went through the full cycle of HR, talent acquisition and social impact. And I wanted to do something more. I wanted to give something back and help people through those growth periods or the changes that you might see in your studios and companies, the little bit of a step change. I know that the industry is in a slightly peculiar position at the moment. However, what we are seeing is the growth of smaller companies and people being able to take some of that money and those ideas and really run with it. And we're totally here for it. And that's why we're delivering this talk today, to try and give a little bit of a flicker of hope back out there that, it doesn't have to be the way that it has been. there's a new way of doing these things.
So the aims of today's session, we want to give everybody a better understanding of what ops and HR can do for your studio and can help the studio succeed. We also want to show that there is value that we can add to your studio and the games that you produce, as well as your leadership and your team. Also, when the right time to implement ops and HR might be, as well as what that might look like for your studio. And we also want to hopefully give you some kind of key considerations that you can take away today and think about implementing them in your company, or at least getting you thinking about how you can maybe make those changes that will help you in the future.
Yeah. So we're going to set the scene for yourself there. So starting your own studio is really exciting. You've got an idea, you've got it all come together, you've got the excitement. I was talking about earlier, the brain itch. You've got the idea, you're fizzing, you're bubbling, you just want to do the thing. You've got your funding, so you've got the money to be able to do it. You launch a company, you've come up with some funky name like Exploding Frog Games or whatever. You've got a few people working for you now. You're really loving it, it's great. Except it's not quite what you thought it was going to be. Not what you thought it was going to be at all.
No, there's all of this stress, all of this headache that can come about. And, we've spoken to a lot of company directors and a lot of company founders over the years, and more recently as well. And they've highlighted that, some of the biggest kind of stresses to them can be things like compliance to do with legal and, making sure that you've got the right NDAs in place, the right policies and contracts.
Is there an NDA in place?
Yeah, is there an NDA in place? It's also the cash flow and the finance and the budgets, knowing how much you've got to spend on your company's team celebrations for their latest milestone, or, whether you can buy the latest tech to be able to be that innovative company moving forward. It's also things like the business admin that you have to think about, when you're applying for your next grants or your funding, or what the next sort of money coming in is and when that will be. The HR stuff as well. So payroll, pensions, benefits, what they might be, when you're going to implement them, how many people.
How many times you hear, if you've got 5 minutes
in
one day.
So it's feeling like as well that they can't take that time off because of all of this stuff is building up, and they've got those stresses. And I was speaking to a director recently who decided to use an AI calendar to help populate their diary for the week with all of the key tasks that they needed to put in. And they entered all their tasks into this AI calendar, and they said it was great. It formulated this, really finessed schedule, but it came up saying that it left 5 things out that it couldn't physically fit in at all.
5 really important things.
Really important things. And this was the person's lunch. It was their break. It was their time to breathe, their time to take those, that sort of hour to themselves to alleviate that stress. And that's where ops and HR can come in. We can help take that stress off you and help give directors and company owners that time back. And I think it will give them time back to be able to spend time to lead their teams and to direct them and to help learn more about them. And it's
or
so many things.
Go to the toilet, or have a sandwich or something, or have a cup of tea. But say all of those things go towards making the game, because they can't do any of that without it, particularly with the finance function and the HR capabilities. But actually being a human and why they came there in the first place to be able to do it. And so we speak to a lot of company owners that feel like they have to do it all because it's their natural default. Because they're trying to do all of this. And we did this as a bit of an exercise for us. These are the things that we cover just between the two of us. And there are companies, smaller companies, even larger companies, where you have people that are leading, that are trying to do all of this stuff. It might be the first time they're doing it, or they feel like they have to do it, but they feel like that leadership expects them to do all of that. And the reality is they don't have to do all of it, because there are people like me and Becky 4 hour fight Vaults love doing it. We actually like doing it. I really look forward to receiving my magazines tell me about changes in employment law. But I also
love my health and safety.
I love my health and safety. It's nothing that I love more than arguing with people about immigration and Brexit. However, I know how important that is. And when we speak to business owners, and the first question I ask them when they say, could you help me? And they go, I want someone to do this, 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 and this. I say, can we just take a moment? What's keeping you awake at night? Actually, what's worrying you? And it's this, plus the other slide. There's a lot.
And this is just an overview.
This is just a little bit.
A high-level overview.
Yeah, high-level overview. So when you think about that plus everything else, saying that game development is really complex. It's not straightforward. And I liken a lot of what I've done and what I've seen over the years. It's like spinning plates, hence this lovely image here, of people miraculously spinning plates whilst standing on each other's shoulders. But the part that business operations and HR play in helping you make the game is a part of the game. And well, I've always felt really proud to be a part of the credits on any game that gets published and sent out into the world. So I feel like I've been able to take some of the weight off the shoulders of business leaders because they instill that trust and they ask for your expertise and you can help them. So they don't feel like as if they're having more plates being added or they're expected to have more people stand on their head because they're expected to say, have you got 5 minutes? Have you done the video game tax relief? Have you done your VAT return? Or by the way, you've got a pensions meeting to go to now and you haven't breathed and you can be a little bit. Actually, I'm just asking, how many times have you heard somebody say, do you have 5 minutes? And you've internally eye rolled and taken a sharp in breath and gone, yes. I have 5 minutes. The reality is that you don't, but you do need to give that time to that person. If you give some stuff away and delegate it, you will give yourself the space to be able to do that. And we were talking about this actually, and we think there might be a slightly better analogy for how this might be.
Yes, and that is the game of Tetris. And this may play, this may not play, I don't know. But the game of Tetris, you know, you're trying to lay down those foundations, those clean lines. You've got a few sort of things coming in every so often. You're trying to sort of fit in those pieces together and fill in those gaps, those kind of key crucial gaps. And, you know, if you imagine it when you get to the harder levels and things start to build up a little bit quicker and it gets faster and you get more shapes included and it's harder to fit in those gaps and to fill the holes that are there. And, you know, just when you think, oh, okay, you're doing all right, you know, you've got your schedule and your plan laid out, actually there's, you know, you've got an inbox full of emails or the build breaks or you get a bug or there's an unexpected visitor or, oh, there's a pandemic. You know, there's all of these things that add up.
And you think, well, a few blocks have gone down and I've had a weekend off. I can do a breather.
I can breathe.
But you can't because somebody hands their notice in and now you need to recruit someone and you need to write a job description. But that's okay because you've put that out now. But that's not where it ends because now you need to look at the CVs. Now you need to interview the people and then you make the decision. You go, right, send the contracts out. The contract's out, that's fine. We could get a few blocks. No, they've just started now. And your Monday is now showing somebody where the toilet is, where the coffee is, how to connect onto Parsec.
That's your day gone.
And that's your day gone. And you haven't even touched the game. You haven't even touched the game. And then you've got other things that can land on your plate, like I say, changes, Brexit, the build, someone copying your game. Have you ever even talked about PR and marketing yet? And everything else that comes with it. So yeah, there is a lot. There's a lot.
So we like to think or talk about ops and HR like your Tetris experts. We will come in, we will help lay down those clean foundations, those clean lines, make sure there's no gaps, you know, missing from what your requirements are, what you need. But if there are gaps, we'll come in, we can fix those as well, and we can make things run more efficiently and more smoothly.
And now I can't make it go away because it makes me want to play Tetris all the way to the end. No, that makes it play, Becky. They want more. More.
It's over an hour long, that video, so we're not going to play the whole thing.
No, they have to show them that. Level 60.
Hover here. No?
Just makes you play. Tech person, help.
Escape and then start again, maybe? This is what happens when you embed a video into a presentation.
Yeah, we try to be slick.
We're all good. Cool. We're all good.
And now we've gone back to the beginning.
Not too far. No, because you're going to get back to that. Oh, there we go.
I know what I'm doing. Ta-da!
So yeah, we help lay down those foundations, fill in those gaps, and help set the businesses up so they've got those clear kind of business capabilities and solid business capabilities.
I say business capabilities. Ooh, sounds a bit corporate, and we don't like corporate in the games industry, do we? So when I talk about business capabilities, actually, they're more like the pillars or the tenets that holds your company up, and actually any company. I mean, within the context of games, where you've got those solid fundamentals, they're there. There's a fellow called McKinsey. If you've done like an MA, you've done CIPD, any stuff like that, you'll know who this person is. And I see some gentle nods from the PTSD that comes with studying for a master's degree whilst being full-time employed. However, the key elements of those business capabilities, as they talk about, is a company's superpower. And being able to tap into what that is will actually help your studio be more resilient and be able to withstand any of those changes and the things that have been coming up that we've seen. So it's making the best use of an integrated set of people, processes and tech that creates value, but enabling your company to do something consistently better, that you're able to keep being more efficient, keep delegating, use all of the people in your company to do a great job, and it will help you stay competitive. And it's not about, when we say competitive, about taking anybody else down. It's just always be better. Always look for just trying to edge that up and be that little bit more savvy while using those strong foundations. All of those people, those, like say, those pillars are your facilities, your HR, your finance, your IT, HR people, talent acquisition. Everything else is there to help you, to facilitate you.
And to talk about some kind of key figures that really sort of set the scene and you know, is thought to take away today, is that according to Harvard Business Review, you know, business owners that delegated their HR and ops tasks to specialists, to operation and HR experts, they were able to have a reduction in stress by 33%. So that's 33% reduction in stress.
Yeah, and we were like, what does that actually look like? Because you can't, sometimes it's hard to quantify what 33% less stress feels like. But that's like 2 days per week that you feel less stressed. And then we can't count our weekends in there because we're kind of still reeling from the middle of the week. But imagine you just like 2 days of your working week, you feel less like your hair is on fire.
I mean, if I had the opportunity, I would be straight in that line to make sure that
I could here's some stuff.
33%. And also to like sort of back this up as well, is that they also reported feeling 30% more confident with their business potential. So that's 33% reduction in stress and also 30% more confident in their business potential as well. So really key figures to just think about and take away with you today.
Yeah, and it's really interesting with our study with where they felt they were more confident in their business's potential because they actually had the room to think about what tomorrow or next month or next year or next project looked like, because like I say, the hair wasn't on fire. And they had the mind space to be able to not think about all the things that were going on right in front of their face, but they were actually thinking about what could come next. They moved from thriving to from surviving to thriving. They could really make that shift because they felt they had trusted experts around them that would take the load off of them, and they could focus back on what they were best at. And actually, there's a book that's come out recently called The Founder's Legacy by Simon Court. Recommend you read that. And then he talks about the importance of doing what you do best and find trusted people to be able to bench press that for you as well, so that you can be a better founder, co-founder, CEO, director, by not feeling like you have to do it all. So let's go into a little bit more detail. So why using people like us early on, and as I caveat early on, at any point, right, don't wait until it's gone too far. Don't wait until the waterline is up to your lip. Maybe speak to us a little bit before then, or, you know, there are lots of experts for you to tap into. There's another talk happening exactly now, and there are a lot of experts in there, so check out that. But using us early on will actually help you and your studio at any stage, but definitely early on.
Yeah, so when we talk about ops, you know, we're talking about ensuring things run smoothly, and this can be making sure that you've got effective and efficient processes in place. When we think about processes, you can think about your daily routines and your daily habits. And if you compare it to your home life, you know, it's about having your morning coffee, or maybe taking your dog for a walk, or going for a run in the morning. You set things up in certain places in certain ways to make things that little bit easier for yourself. So you might leave the dog lead by the door, and your shoes by the door as well, or your coffee by the coffee machine. It makes sense. So operations can kind of come in, and we're essentially, you know, we help make those habits and those daily routines a lot more easier for you, and a lot more efficient. So it means that you get that time back, and it takes away that pressure. It takes away that stress. We're also talking about resource management. So that's not just tools and software, that's people as well, and equipment. And it's making sure that you've got the right people in place, the right equipment in place, and the right tools. You know, not everybody has time to research and demo thousands of pieces of software and see which one is the best one that fits for their studio. But getting somebody in ops to be able to assess certain things and assess the way that the studio runs and find the best things that suit them, and helps them, you know, be more effective is really key. Crisis management as well. If we think about crisis management, we can think about COVID. You know,
we're pandemic ready now.
Yes, we've all been through it. So it's your business continuity planning and your disaster recovery and preparing for the unforeseen that could, you know, impact your business. And I think, you know, you can pretty guarantee that 99.9% of companies would have their operations team coming in during the pandemic and during lockdown to make sure that they've got their teams and the studio working successfully at home. Operations also covers the work environments. So whether this is in office or remote or hybrid, it's about those collaborative, inclusive and engaging environments, whether it's physical or virtual, and making sure that there's ways in which the team can help build really good working relationships and build that element of trust. So operations can help, you know, put those fundamentals in place. Especially like during COVID, when we all think how we had to adapt from working remotely. If we weren't doing that before, it was how do we transfer the culture from an in-person to a virtual? So they kind of play a big part in that. It's also business compliance. So we're talking health and safety, insurance. To some people, it sounds really boring. You know, people might yawn about it, but operations generally tend to geek out about it and really love it. We like coming in and fixing things and making sure that everybody's safe and looked after. And we're kind of helping the company and the people in the best way that we can, that will set them up and set their game up for success. As well as the budget management and procurement. You know, I mentioned earlier, figuring out if you've got enough budget to treat your team to, you know, that celebration for that big milestone, or to know when you can get that latest bit of equipment or tech. It's also whether or not, you know, you can afford to actually have a physical office space, or maybe expand your physical office space, or whether that's better that you have it remotely and spend your money elsewhere. And the other thing is not last, but it's, you know, the security things as well. So this could be physical security or cyber security. It's about the safety of your team and your studio and your operations.
Yeah, bouncers.
Yeah.
We do know people that are.
We set things up so we don't need the bouncers. Yeah. But yeah, that is just a sort of a very short overview, but I don't want to bore people into the details and everything.
No, bore them into the details.
If anybody wants to know more about operations, or if there's something on there that you didn't think was there and you'd like to talk about, then we're more than happy to have a conversation.
You'll have a chance to ask questions in about 2 minutes. But say from the HR perspective, and I say people like HR, like, some of this work that I do can be really simple, as much as a company's been really successful, they've got plenty of people, they've got fantastic projects, but they might not have any policies in place. People don't really know how much sick leave they have, and whether they'll get paid for it, or whether if somebody's poorly, they kind of they've got an idea how things work, but actually what a policy does, it sets that framework of what's expected and what you're actually going to get out of being employed at that company, and what they can expect from you. And knowing the studio brand and culture, I mean, people talk about it, but really what it is that playbook. When you go into a company, what are you going to expect from them? What kind of behaviours would work here might not work somewhere else, and being able to really clearly communicate what that is golden, because it helps with hiring people, helps with people getting onboarded. If you don't develop your developers, I promise you they will walk. You can't stand still with this. Amazing, brilliant people that want to keep learning more and being better and pushing the boundaries of making games. If you don't invest in that, it's going to be a problem, and someone like me will be able to see that and give you some solutions that will work for your company, not everybody, your company, that will work for you. And also supporting leads, supporting business owners, being someone that's trusted, that can understand what it's like to make a game and some of those stresses. Helping with things like, are you paying people the right amount of money? Helping with conflict. And also small companies, people don't want to complain to the boss. They don't want to complain to the person who runs the company. They feel like they might want to have a bit more of an open conversation with someone who's HR. But the key part of what we're saying is that you don't necessarily need to hire these people into your company if it's a smaller one, or if it's a moment where you just want some additional support. Our support can be small on just one of those things, the giant spider web that we showed you earlier, or it could be something a little bit more long term. Like I say, making games is complex. Also, finding those solutions is not. So you could get in a piece of a bit of expertise and then step away. Even very big studios have worked with them to help guide their hiring processes and support training hiring managers, purely because the team did not have enough time to do it. And that's okay. We like helping studios. We love the games industry. We want to see it thrive and continue. And that's why we do what we do.
So yeah, to sum up, and we'll hopefully have some time for some questions as well. We understand that making games and setting up a studio and running a business is stressful. We get it. We've been there. We've been amongst the team throughout all of those phases, from a very short game cycle to a very large and long game cycle, which
felt like it was never going to end.
Yeah. So we're talking 18 months through to maybe 4 or 5 years. We've kind of worked alongside the teams and the games developers to support them through this process as well. So we get that it's stressful.
Yeah, and I say just to say this again, your superpower is feeling like if you don't need to do this by yourself, because you don't. Good news, there's people out there that will do it for you. You don't have to do it by yourself. Early is best, but don't wait until you've gone too far, particularly as a business owner, where you feel like you can't really do anymore because the capacity in your soul and your brain is not there anymore.
Yeah, and I mean, I think the other kind of key takeaway as well is that use the experts that you have available to you. There's so many out there now in the industry. There's more and more that are sort of forming their own consultancy businesses. So there's plenty of us to go around, and I think it's just making sure that you think about where you've got those gaps and those kind of key bits of support that you really need, and utilizing those experts that are out there, because they can help. We can help massively and help take that time, that stress, and that time pressure off.
Yeah, so not every company is going to want to do this the same way, because you shouldn't. You're individual, and that's amazing. But the outcome should always be the same, and that's us feeling like we've walked away or helped you be stronger and more resilient as a company. So thank you very much for listening to us. Seen some nodding heads.
Apologies for all the tech issues at the start,
tech.
but
Sudden games. So we've got some time for questions. I think we've got 7 minutes. Maybe. So it'd be lovely to hear from you if you've got any questions, because otherwise it's going to be industry horror stories.
I think
we've got some hands
up back.
Hello. Thank you for the talk. I know that it might be like a topic for a whole separate talk, but from your point of view, there's a lot of happening, in HR in terms of trends, innovation, different things that we hear in this conference as well. What's the top kind of HR-related trends that you're excited about, that you believe has, future in the industry?
Okay, I can answer that from my perspective. So from the HR side of things, because of the changes and pivot in the industry at the moment from an HR perspective, it's less about developing a talent pipeline and going back to basics, actually, and making sure that your workforce is happy with where they are right now. There'll be a lot of people that have got survivor syndrome if you've stayed at a studio, and there's lots of people that are still amazing that are looking for roles. Some people are actually in this room, so meet everybody, and if you can help them, do that. But there are a lot of smaller companies now that are starting to rise from the ashes of that, and they are people that are opening up businesses because they've got an idea and they want to make a game. They're not necessarily doing it because they want to run a business and make money. So from the HR side of things, it is going back to basics and the fundamentals, which is a lovely place to be. What about you? What do you reckon from let's say, it's hybrid and remote working is still a thing?
Yeah, I mean, it is. I think that we're finding a lot more employees, and especially with like the younger generation as well, is a lot more people are looking at their values that are important to them and how they match with the company that they're joining. So I think there's a lot more studios that are going to be putting more focus on values. And especially for the teams that are joining them, they want to make sure that they sync with what they believe in and what they aspire to. And, I think there is a lot of work being put in there for team development as well, and helping everybody feel like they've got a place where they can belong.
Yeah, and co-development, I think, is going to become more important in outsourcing. The size of companies as super studios, I personally don't think we're going to see those kinds of sizes anymore. We will be looking at companies that we're thinking about how you can do this differently, how you can be more efficient, how you can have your core team and be able to lean on expertise of companies that are full of amazing people that have worked on multiple different titles and picked up lots of skills and experience along the way, rather than working on one franchise for 15 years and they've not got the breadth of experience. So hope that answers that question. Okay. Pressing the microphone. Honestly, these lights.
Hi there, and thank you for the talk. A little bit of a side question. So it's mainly to do with building like a strong company culture. How would you sort of fit, obviously, the HR and policies and the strict sort of things that you do there with like a strong company culture? Like what would be the key 3 things that you would say to focus on to build that strong company culture?
I've just done something like that for a client, actually, and it's a client that we share. It's amazing. They're a lovely, lovely company, but they had a really, really strong culture from the minute I walked through the door there. And in terms of policies, they had them, but they weren't available to people. So for me, I spent more time getting to understand how they talk to each other, how they communicate, what was important to them, even the way that what font are they using? What is their language? How did they communicate? So it wasn't about what I was doing and what I thought was right for me. I knew what that framework looked like, but I needed to make it palatable and usable for them, so they felt like I was giving them something that they were already familiar with. So for me, I lever on what's familiar and take time to get to know people before I just pick up a template, you know, turn it and throw it in, because that, from my perspective, that is not a good HR professional. An HR professional is someone who's there as much for the people as it is for the company, probably more so for the people, that's me. But when you have an HR person that can listen and people trust in the company, and they know those policies are there to help them understand how to navigate their way through problems, changes, things that happen in life, that's where they become important. And then that feeds into your culture, because your policies keep replicating that and cycling that back around.
Yeah.
Awesome. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I think there's a gentleman at the back.
Sorry, I didn't move forward when you moved forward. I'm still back here. So I work for quite a sort of, I'm a leadership group in a sort of corporate game studio. This is sort of on the same lines of culture. So from my experience, culture is sort of quite a natural thing within a studio that's sort of built through the years. But when you sort of talk about it, it's sort of like a line item. So I guess I'm curious sort of how you approach culture from your perspective and building culture while also kind of keeping it a natural thing.
I think it's about when you like you said, culture kind of naturally forms from the sort of the starting founders and people that are already there in the team. But it's all about nurturing that culture as well, and reviewing and seeing how people interact and making sure that you put things in place and implement things that help sort of support that in a way. And yeah, I think culture change, if you needed to change the culture, that can take a long time and a long process. So it's just doing it slowly in a more sort of natural and holistic way.
Yeah, I think it's again, just to kind of reiterate that the varying different cultures are a reflection of the company's personal values. Quite often they haven't written it down or been able to actually communicate what there is. It's almost like the unspoken rules here. That's not how we do things here. Favorite saying in inverted commas, it's really not. But when you can write that down and put that in writing, or you can verbalize that confidently and you know it, that's when culture becomes a real thing rather than just a kind of nebulous idea. And then you can start structuring everything around that as well. So culture can be, talk about company fit. What it means is like, how are people behaving in line with personal values? Are you being abrasive to a collective set of values or not? So yeah, it blends, it really does. But if you can sit down with company founders and the leading team saying, what's really important to you and your personal values, and what does it mean in this company? What is it to this context? Because everybody working here, they believe in you and they believe in the game and they believe in your vision, but how do they show up doing that? And then when you verbalize it, you write it down, it's there, and you communicate it. Comms experts, read the room. That is where the magic happens, and that's where you and your company have your own identity, and that's what will make you stand out, and that's how you attract great people, and that's why they stay.
And I think that's all we've got time for, unfortunately.
But the best thing is...
Oh, no.
The best thing is, look at that. You can see us later. Yes. We're going to be around. QR
if anybody
codes.
has any extra questions that they want to sort of hang back, or I don't know if this room is booked afterwards. It is, so we have to
you have to heave-ho.
congregate outside of this room. But yeah, feel free to come and chat with us and ask us any extra questions.
Come chat with us. I say those QR codes go through to our LinkedIn profiles.
Oh, and my website.
And your website. But you can send any questions there. But say we are around. I tend to go to lots of events because I like people and I like talking, as you can tell. But thank you very much for coming. Yes. I know it's day 2. We're probably a bit tired. We're nearly at the end of the day. You can smell the beer and the wine from the bar downstairs. You're full of merch. And thank you very, very much.
Thank you, everybody.
See you again soon.